rise for the national or Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item of business, I need a motion to add an addendum to item B2, the personnel report, and item E2, School Board Finance Committee. Someone willing to make a motion?
Move to amend.
It's been moved and seconded to add an addendum, item B2, personnel report, and add item E2 to the School Board Finance Committee. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next up is public comments, and we do have public comments from Mr. Albert Billingsley. Before Mr. Billingsley gets started, I have a disclaimer we need to read. Persons appearing before the school board will not be allowed to campaign for public office, promote private business ventures, use profanity or vulgar language or gestures, use language which insults or demeans any person or which, when directed at a public employee or official, is not related to his or her official duties, engage in behavior that disrupts the meeting or intimidates others, or address the school board on issues that does not concern the services, policies, or affairs of the school board. Individual speakers shall limit their comments to 3 minutes. A speaker representing a group shall limit his comments to 5 minutes. The representative shall identify the group at the beginning of his or her presentation. A group may have no more than one spokesperson. Mr. Billingsley.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, superintendent, and staff members. I'm here representing Safe Families for Children tonight. That's what I'd like to kind of make you all aware of. My name is Albert Billingsley, and I'm here tonight to make you aware of a new program that is being piloted in our area, specifically in Lynchburg and the 4 surrounding counties. The program is called Safe Families for Children. Safe Families for Children was founded in Chicago in 2003 by a social worker who saw the need for this program, and the program is now in dozens of states and in several foreign countries. By law, most state child welfare agencies are allowed to rescue children who have been only children who have suffered blatant abuse or neglect. In this day and time, more and more families are experiencing financial crisis, unemployment, and homelessness, not to mention family violence, parental drug and or alcohol abuse, illness, or incarceration. We have more and more families that are alone in the community, coming from other areas for jobs, school, or other opportunities. These families lack a support system of extended family members and close friends when a crisis strikes. This is where Safe Families for Children can be of help. Safe Families for Children is a network of host families and support families who are prompted by compassion for children. These host families are screened, fingerprinted, and have background checks. Home screenings are performed. They provide references, and they are trained. Additionally, they serve without compensation, similar to what you all do. Safe Families for Children strives to meet 3 objectives: child welfare deflection, child abuse prevention, and family support and stabilization. Historically, the average length of stay is 31 days, with a range of anywhere from 2 days to 2 years. Length of stay is dependent upon the individual family need and the volunteer availability. The ages of the children in the program range from newborns to teenagers. 85 to 90% of the children return to the parents or relatives. Under 4% are screened into foster care. Safe Families for Children is not state funded, rather it is privately funded. However, the program has the full backing of the state of Virginia's social services. State Families for Children is administered by Patrick Henry Services here in Lynchburg. This program will become the model used throughout the state of Virginia. which brings me to why I'm here and talking to you. Unlike foster care, the natural family retains full custody of the children. Safe Families for Children staff has met with the superintendent and is working with the administration to be able to provide schools the notification and the legal paperwork for children that are under the care of a volunteer family. It is apparent that schools are the first line of defense when it comes to the family. A teacher knows when one of his or her students is acting differently, maybe showing signs of distress or the child's normal mood has changed. Sometimes this is referred to a school nurse or the administration. Safe Families for Children can be a resource that the school can offer a family. I have plenty of data, that I can share with any of you that may desire more information about Safe Families for Children, and I included in the handout I gave you some of that contact information. I've also provided a flyer for some quick reference information along with the donor card. I'm not going to be too shy about that. If any of you feel so moved and would like to get on board and support us financially, it'd be wonderful. Since host families are volunteers, the cost of providing services for one of our children for a year is about $600. Any donations you feel led to give will go directly to helping these children and families in crisis. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I appreciate it very much. I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Next up, item of business is item B, the consent agenda. It includes school board meeting minutes from August 2nd, the personnel report and addendum, and religious exemption. Can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Second.
Any further discussion? It's been moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next up is student representative comments. And welcome to our new student representatives, Ms. Sydney Marshall from Glass. And Miss India Page from that wonderful new Heritage High School. We'll let Ms. Marshall start off.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sydney Marshall. I'm the student representative from EC Glass. So it's good to see everyone today. And you can go to the next slide. We have a lot of new staff at EC Glass this year. We have a new director of school counseling, Tracy Miller-Good, and she joined us from Nelson County High School. And we also have a new technical director, Mrs. Norwood, and she's replacing J.D. Stallings. So the whole theater department's really excited about that. We have a great season coming up, so we just welcome all the new staff that came aboard EC Glass this year. And we have our own EC Glass graduate, David Verberg. He qualified in the Rio Olympics, and he made it to the semifinals, which is very exciting. And he will compete again this Friday in the 4x400. So all of EC Glass will be rooting for him, and we wish him the best of luck. We had our own senior, Daniel Simon. He went to the Drum Corps International World Championship, and it was an amazing opportunity. He got the chance to perform in front of more than 40,000 people, so we are very lucky to have someone as talented as him on the marching band at EC Glass. Speaking of the marching band, they have been working hard this summer coming up with The Universe Is Us performance, and everyone is really looking forward to it at our first football game, so everybody looks really forward to that. And school improvements. We just began construction on the last 4 tennis courts, and each of the core classrooms received 28 collaboration desks and chairs. So in the classrooms now, everything is more grouped-based and more, you do things in groups, and a lot of my teachers have already implemented that, and we've done a lot of group activities, so the desks are very nice. We want to thank everyone who came to the Back to School celebration. I was there along with a lot of my friends. We had our mascot, Rami, and he was taking pictures with all of the kids, and it was a really good turnout. And Miss Andrea and Miss Ruffin, they manned the cotton candy machine, which was a great success. It actually stopped working before the event was over. Everybody used it, so it was amazing. We want to give a great thank you to our custodial crew. When we came back to school, everything was so pretty. The cafeteria was beautiful. We have a lot of new tables, and it was very nice, and it was a good thing to come back to. Rosal and Elliot Schul, they own Schul's Furniture. Elliot graduated in 1941. He was an EC Glass cheerleader. So he came back during the summer and looked at the new cheerleading display. So it's really nice when people who graduated from EC Glass come back and see the things that we're doing. It really means a lot. Online registration. We have 1,400 students, and out of that 1,400, only 500 had to register online on the actual registration day. So we're just very happy in that increase in numbers, and we hope they continue to increase. So, fall sports. Fall sports is everyone's favorite thing at EC Glass, so we're really excited about the football team and our cross-country team, which always does amazing. So everyone's looking to going out and supporting the school. We had our senior, Brooke Mannion, and an incoming freshman, Jet Davidson. They both competed in the Commonwealth Games and took away the first place finishes. Brooke was the 800-meter champion, and Jet was the 1,500-meter champion. So we're very proud of them, and we're glad to have such amazing athletes at EC Glass also. And you can go to the next slide. That is it. We look forward to a great school year, and thank you all very much.
Thank you. Exciting times. Start of the new school year. Ms. Page, what's going on at Heritage?
Oh, so much is going on with a brand new school. Starting off with the summer, as soon as we left school, Mr. Jonathan Tristan Polk received the Whitehead Media Venture Scholarship on June 11th. He's such a talented person, and I was lucky enough to work with him a couple times before he graduated. The graduating class of 2016 was certainly a memorable class. Heritage hosted a beautiful graduation on the morning of June 12th for the last class that will graduate out of the old Heritage High School. We are still Heritage High School, we're just in a new building. Moving week was June 27th to July 1st. A bunch of graduated students came in and decided they would donate their time and help move a lot of resources and materials to the new school. Lynchburg Living. Heritage High School student artwork was featured on the cover of the July/August issue of Lynchburg Living. We're so proud of those students. A sad goodbye. Miss Cynthia Mabry retired from Heritage High School after serving as a social studies teacher. I sadly missed out. I would have had her for government this year, but I do have a great new teacher too. College workshops. Heritage hosted a college essay and scholarship workshop in the Heritage High School Forum. It's a great room. I suggest come checking it out. It is awesome. The event was hosted by the Beacon of Hope. And Mr. Rourke, our art teacher, took these wonderful photos of the new building. We were still a little under construction when he took them, but the top left is our forum. The bottom left is Mr. Beatty and our brand and glorious gym. The middle picture is what we call Main Street, and on the bottom right is the new theater. Our summer graduates, Nashandra Lewis, Shaniqua Seals, and Richard Wansley graduated this summer from Heritage High School. Student Athlete Leadership Conference. We had a couple of students attend this, and guest speakers included Ms. Monica Kabler. She was the first African-American homecoming queen at the University of Georgia and a track athlete who qualified for the Olympic trials. And Todd Swisher, a member of the Lynchburg Police Department and a Heritage High School graduate. Back to school day was awesome. I wasn't able to attend, but from the pictures I saw, it seemed really great. The celebration was held on August 6th. Music was provided by the house band along with a hot dog lunch. Fill the Bus. Students from Heritage High School participated in the Fill the Bus campaign at Walmart on Wards Road and Old Forest Road. National American Miss Virginia. Tia Cook, a 2015 Heritage graduate, won the title of National Miss American Miss Virginia. She was an honor student, senior class vice president, and the varsity cheer captain. We're very proud of her. And lastly, our ribbon cutting ceremony was signified the official start of a new school year in the new Heritage High School building and was held on August 11th. It's an exciting new year. I'm so proud to represent Heritage in our new building. Same spirit, we're just a couple feet away.
Well, thank you both very much. It's always enjoyable to have input from the students, and feel free to contribute during the meeting too, as appropriate.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir, Dr. Coleman.
I always say this every time, but I deeply mean it. These are some of the most articulate young people. I mean, your presentation suggests to me that for years to come, you all are going to be in the traffic of what's really special in our world. That is just wonderful. Just wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up is school board committee reports. Any reports from any committees? Dr. Coleman.
Mr. Chair, I would like to defer, if it is possible. The Equity Task Force is doing a wonderful retreat, and I'm not in position to explain it as well as I should, but Ethel can, if she would be allowed, just to say a brief statement about what we are doing.
Mr. Reeves.
You know, assuming the board consents, I will just, I'm okay with it, but you can certainly feel free to tell Dr. Coleman otherwise, if as appropriate, as opposed to being voluntold.
Good evening, and thank you, Dr. Coleman. The Equity Task Force didn't meet on Thursday, and each year we have a planning session, so it was a little bit of a longer meeting. But we looked at actually the bylaws that were formed back when it was the Key Communicators organization. So we are actually meeting again on Thursday to really revamp those and to look at what it is that we're doing as an Equity Task Force. We are also looking at those needs that we have in the school division as related to our many focal points. So we look forward to bringing the board more information about what the Equity Task Force is doing and the impact that we're making.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other committee reports?
Okay.
Ms. Carter? Go ahead, Ms. Carter.
And I attended the first board meeting this year of the Laurel School, Regional School, and elected a new slate of officers, and also they are excited about the new ramp that they have, which will allow the students easier access to the playground. They're also looking for ideas or information regarding any type of playground equipment that's more wheelchair friendly. So if anyone is aware of that or know of that, we could use that information.
Thank you. Ms. Board?
Governor's School board met last week, the week before, 2 weeks ago, and they actually started back with classes this past week, and they were really excited about the new space, and multiple board members wanted to say thank you to Lynchburg City Schools in particular for allowing them to be a part of the new Heritage High School. They were still moving stuff in, and they had to get it in a week before we did for classes, but it was a lot of excitement over there, and so it's really a neat space, and it's neat to see. And I imagine at some point they will have an open house for us to see the new space too. It's interesting to see the different technology packages that they chose versus what that we chose for Heritage High School. So it's a lot of excitement, and I'm sure they've got to be up and running now because there's kids in there. So that's it for that.
Other comments? Okay. If not, we'll move on. Item E1, comprehensive plan update. Dr. Brabrand's going to run with this one.
Yep. Well, good evening, everybody. I want to thank you for giving me an opportunity this evening to share with you the comprehensive plan. This is the guiding document around our school division and how to continue to improve. You will find there are a couple of things as we go through here that are not yet ready for prime time. The graduation information, and Dr. McLean and Dr. Bruce and maybe a few others may step in to add or enumerate some points that I might not fully do. But the graduation rate will be coming from the state next month, and today we got the updates on the federal information, which we have for you tonight. The state accreditation information will be available in a few weeks, and then we will update you appropriately. And again, this is a plan that we we'll also share probably in some manner when we have our joint meeting with City Council to let them know how we are doing as a school division. So if we go ahead and get started, the on-time graduation rate, actually there's the date. September 28th is when the state plans to release it. As you know, our results last year were the same as the year before, with some increases but some declines, and we'll have the update for you on that next month. This is the increase in 8th graders on track to graduation, and what we've used here is a measure of 8th graders who have at least one credit. As you can see, we saw a slight decline this past year. 59% of 8th graders had at least one credit. It was just below the 60% mark, and we've been in the mid-60s the last 2 years. We'll continue to work with our middle school principals to make sure kids are taking as many advanced classes as possible so that they can have the leg up as they start high school. You also can see our numbers in terms of the number of 9th graders who've taken at least 5 high school credits, who've really moved ahead and taken additional high school coursework by the time they've already reached 9th grade. That went down slightly as well, again about 85%. I'm sorry? That's the finish of 9th grade, went down slightly. That's one of the areas that we're going to work on this year, of course, with Empowerment Academy, to catch students who are falling behind and get them on a track to be successful so that they can graduate on time. So, yes ma'am.
Just a clarification again, the percentage of 9th graders with at least 5 high school credits, so these are the percentage at the end of 9th grade?
Yes.
Who have 5 credits. The kids are taking
7 credits.
7 credits.
They can take up to 7 credits.
Okay.
So this is a kid who has not had success in 2 classes.
So 15% of our kids, thereabouts, don't
Right.
have success with,
At least 2.
yeah.
2 or more. And that means they received a failing grade, and that 10 or 15%, when you start to think about it, grows back to our graduation rate that you saw was at 81%. 20% of our kids, we've got to start looking at 9th grade and seeing who's on the right start and who's a little bit getting off to a rockier start, and start planning additional interventions for those kids.
Is this where the semester, the way that we've restructured the years, will this help?
I believe it's going to help because we're going from a semester grading approach to a year-long grading approach, so the kid really has all 4 quarters to show success. And if you really have a strong second semester or a strong 3rd and 4th quarter, that can really help you finish up in a way that you could end up getting a passing grade that you may not have been able to show in a semester where by January you didn't get it. One of the things, many of you were at convocation this year, I drew a cat from last year, and then I asked a local teacher, John Rourke, to give me lessons on how I could improve drawing my cat. If you graded my cat on the first time after my lesson, it was a little bit better than the first cat I did. But it still probably wasn't an A. Then I went home and spent a little bit more time on that cat. I don't know whether my cat in the end was an A cat, but I certainly think it at least had a chance to argue for a B. And so that's really with our kids, giving them a chance to show improvement and show growth over the whole year. We do think the year-long approach to credit is going to be a big help for our high school students. I want to go next to the percentage of kids that are enrolled in at least one course, AP, Advanced Dual Enrollment, Early College, or STEM. You can see we saw an increase in that from the year before, and actually even from 2 years before. We saw increases among our African American students, our white students, our economically disadvantaged, our students with disabilities and other. We saw a decrease among our Hispanic, though that number is a smaller number than some of the other subgroups that are listed up there.
I'm sorry, but it says at the bottom that these students are only counted once, one class, but you could have a student, white, economically disadvantaged, and with a disability, but that student would be counted in all 3 categories?
For the characteristic they have, we're looking at the percentage of the person with that characteristic
Okay.
in that class,
Okay.
in that group.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So, and Jay, say if I'm saying it incorrectly, and April, if I'm saying it incorrectly, let me know.
I'm sorry.
The pull is, there are distinct categories that we pull from, and we look to see whether, of that group, how many have at least one advanced course.
Okay.
So,
So the answer is yes.
They could be in 3 different categories.
Yes.
Yes. Right.
So for example, you see for white kids, 80% had advanced courses, but for economically disadvantaged, only 49%. Well, it's possible that in that 49% are some of the 20% of white kids that didn't.
that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll verify to be sure, but I believe that
See,
is
it's
the case.
possible.
Now, and in one way, if you really wanted to pull the data, it would be to break down each of those bars to see what it looks like within those. That's what you're really getting at. Yes?
You have clarity on that, you're correct. The students could be in both. So they could be in the black, and they could also be in economically disadvantaged. Because the graph is showing how many of those kids in that particular category. That's how
Okay.
that statement.
If there's anything in here as we go along that you want additional data requests on, we can certainly work with you and make that happen. The next slide is the number of high school students enrolled in at least one advanced AP, dual enrollment, early college STEM. And this was data that we had from the second semester. Remind me for a second, this is the grading that had a C or higher. Let me just make sure I've got that right. These were the semester ones. Okay. Right, for the second semester. But I'm trying to go back and look at the one that we had just done. We showed them the number of students in one course. April, can you remind me which one, the difference between this one in course enrollment and the other one that we had shown? Do you recall?
This one is just comparing by semester, which gives us a baseline so that we'll be able to compare semester by semester here in the future.
This was a in-process slide. The slide before gave you the cumulative at the end of the year.
Okay. This was just the breakdown by semester. I gotcha. The next slide is the move to the C or better. If we go, all right, now we know we got more kids in advanced courses. Well, how is their performance? And you can see at the end of this past year, we did pretty good. Overall, we saw a slight uptick in the number of kids with, the percentage of kids with a C or higher. It was overall up, some areas where we were up more, some where we were down just a tad, but overall still the large percentage of our kids are having success in the advanced courses. Of course, the lowest number is probably like an 89%. That's still 10% of kids maybe getting a D, or maybe not even passing at all. And so we want all those kids that get into advanced coursework to have success, and we're going to work on continuing to develop interventions for that to happen. And I think we did the same thing here where we did the semester so we could compare semester to semester data as well for grades. If you move on to the next slide, David. Yep, let's go one more. Now the SOL federal results that we shared with you in a Friday memo right before convocation, and this was shared out today in the state news release. You can see at the end of this past school year, we are seeing an additional increase in our math SOL pass percentage rate based on the federal calculations, and we see that increase across every subgroup listed, which is great news. We saw a 10-point gain in math the year before. We saw a 4-point gain this year. Just for reference, this year, the state's increase in math was only 1 point. So we did 4 times better than the state this year, and we did it across all of our different subgroups. We're very, very happy. We still have room to go. Of course, you know our target is 71%, so we fell short of the target, but we are making progress in the right direction. If you look to the next slide, this is reading. And again, we'll have the state information out in a few more weeks, and the state has a few different rules than the federal. The federal, in one way, is almost the stricter one. It doesn't let us count for some things like kids who had failed the year before and then had success on the test, what we call recovery points. But you can see here in reading, too, with the federal accreditation standards, we increased again in reading by 2 points after a 7-point increase the year before, and you saw those increases in reading across all subgroups. Every group of kids improved by way of relative to the state. The state saw and reported this afternoon, or rather this morning, a 1-point increase in the reading score. We had a 2-point increase. So, yes, sir.
And Dr. Brigman, I certainly agree that things are getting better. By way of your presentation, with the reading, and you shared all of this at the convocation, I thought, in a powerful way. But my point I'm getting at is when you look at these scores, and if I'm in a game and I am 33 points behind, percentage points, or whatever you want to call it, we are working very diligently on trying to help each of these subgroups to get where they need to go. As persons look at this data, I'm just trying to, you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes. Yes, and what we're pleased with is not just overall growth, but if you break each subgroup down and you look through the bar, this past year actually, which wasn't true the year before, every subgroup did improve. Obviously, we want the percentage gains to be higher, but the bottom line is over the last 2 years, we've seen a 9% growth in our reading scores and a 9-point growth in our reading scores and a 14-point growth in the pass rate in our math scores. So we're definitely headed in the right direction. I don't think we keep this as a goal for our comp plan, but just for information, science, the state saw an increase of 1 point. We saw an increase of 4 points in science. So we saw strong growth in reading, math, and science. The state was flat in social studies, and we were just a touchdown in social studies. But actually, social studies represents our highest overall division score of any of the 4 subject areas. State accreditation, we don't have this data yet. You can see right now there's just 2 bars from 13-14 and 14-15. We'll have it in a few weeks, and we'll bring the updates for you on that. We do anticipate, because the state gives additional opportunities for kids that had struggled before and show success to see higher percentages for state accreditation than we saw for federal. This is information about the benchmark scores. I think you may have already seen this before in a presentation, Dr. Right. I don't know, and maybe Dr. McLean, we could provide more detail later, but we've done some preliminary look at this, and the scores of benchmarks we did feel were a reliable indicator. They tended to be actually harder than the actual SOL results. But the majority of them fell within the range of 10 points of the actual final SOL results. So we're going to continue to make tweaks to the benchmark scores, but it's a great way for our teachers and schools to see how they're doing as the year goes along. And then you have that for the middle school benchmark. Again, those are no changes. You had seen these back late spring, and I think we had the high school ones there for you too. All right, the next goal in our comp plan is around CTE certification tests. You know, we have a lot of career and technical education opportunities for kids in Lynchburg City schools, and I'm happy to report that the percentage of kids passing those tests increased this past year over the year before from 70% to 76%. That's a 10 percentage point gain actually over the last 2 years. So we're seeing more kids have success on those certification tests. And we really want to make sure our kids are ready after graduation to be college or career ready. And seeing higher scores on these certification tests is one indicator at doing that. As you know, last year we had our first full year of LOLE-COLE, where we went in to observe, not only look at the teacher lesson plans, but also to observe teacher instruction. LOLE-COLE has many components, and for those of you new on the board, we'll make sure you get a form so you can see what the typical observation form looks like. But one of the questions that is asked on the form for us to look at, or for a principal to look at, is in the 15 minutes that they're in the classroom, what percentage of time do they see students engaged, either on task, doing something, or on task talking about something related to the standard for the standard objective for the day. And you can see this is our, really our first full year of LOLE-COLE, and we tracked it by quarter, and you can see we're really hovering around for this past year, the first full year, at about 2/3 of our observations said that kids were 90% engaged. So you could say that's good. Most kids are engaged in class 2/3 of the time, but that means 1/3 of the time they observed classrooms where that engagement wasn't happening. I think it's interesting. I think it was Sydney who made or maybe it was India. You made a remark about the classroom furniture and being able to do more small group. I don't remember now who it was. It was you, Sydney. And part of that strategy is getting kids in small groups more, to be engaged, to be able to collaborate around the learning objective. And so we're looking forward to seeing engagement go up. If engagement goes up, we believe learning can go up as well. So we'll be tracking that again this year for you. We also have information around student attendance. I'm delighted to show you, this was the first year I came here, I asked us to take a hard look at truancy, which is defined as 7 unexcused days in a year. This goal is around increasing the percentage of students who miss fewer than 7 unexcused days. And you can see dramatic growth over the last 2 years in lowering truancy, in lowering the number of unexcused absences. And you can see those gains across the board. All right. We also wanted to try to look at it by quarter, to just track each quarter how many kids are missing fewer than 2 unexcused days, fewer than 4 days after the second quarter. If you think that 7 is your benchmark, how do you each quarter make sure they're not getting past that that number? And you can see how that went quarter by quarter. Obviously, as the year goes on, there's a greater possibility that you could collect and accumulate those unexcused days. My only note I think I would tell you here is some of the biggest jumps happened in that fourth quarter, and that's where you really some kids start to lose hope, and they don't feel that coming to school makes a difference. I do think something that you asked earlier, Dr. Dolan-Sewell, about the whole year credit. You really are in the game the whole year to continue to try to work on your grade, and we think that's going to be helpful there. We also want to look, though, not just at unexcused, but at excused. How many kids missed fewer than 10 excused days? Because you're still missing instruction, whether it's excused or unexcused. And you can see this past year we saw gains in the percentage of kids missing fewer than 10 unexcused days. You saw those gains across the board. Remind me, Jay or April, the students with disabilities piece and trying to track this for attendance. Okay, so we'll have that data later for you. I know it's one of the bars missing, and it's one of the things we need to look at too, because our students with disabilities still remains, achievement-wise, one of probably our biggest subgroup that we need to work on for growth. Again, like we did for unexcused, we also looked at tracking the accumulation of unexcused absences by quarter. And I would tell you again here, the biggest uptick really happens that fourth quarter, even with excused absences. So trying to keep kids in school all quarters of the school year remains one of our goals. The numbers overall are positive, but again, those kids that aren't there are missing 10 days of school. You know, overall, our overall number is still 6% of kids missing 10 days of school, even excused. That's still 2 weeks of instruction. All right, our next goal is around behavior. We finished with the areas around achievement and, of course, attendance, and now we're going to look at behavior. And this is the percentage of students with no behavioral referrals. You can see we improved this past year compared to the year before, which was flat from 2 years ago. We had 79% of our students with no behavioral referrals. Again, that means we had 21% of our students, 1 out of 5, who had a behavioral referral all year. And you see that we still have work to do across different groups to get to where we can get everybody with no behavioral referrals at all. Part of our work on doing this is developing, and I know Ms. Brown isn't here tonight, but working to develop interventions once we have a referral for behavior in the school. And that's part of what we've been doing with PBIS the last 2 years, and we're going to continue that work. We also tracked behavioral referrals by quarter. And again, you already saw that we did better year to year. This just shows you the breakdown by quarter. I would just show you again, the reality is the first quarter is our strongest quarter, right? Kids are new at the beginning of the school year. There's less behavioral referrals. The biggest drop off by quarter really comes the last quarter of the year. So even with attendance, even with behavior, that last fourth quarter, how to keep kids engaged coming to school and then engaged in appropriate behavior while at school. The next one around behavior is the percentage of students with no out-of-school suspensions. Again, out of school means you're missing instruction. Just like when we talked about truancy or excused absences, you're not in school. You see this number improved. We improved by 2% the number of kids with no out-of-school suspensions, but that still means we have about 11%. 1 out of 10 of our kids have a suspension at least once during the school year. And that's part of the work that we still need to do. We did see improvement across every single subgroup, and we were at the same level with our economically disadvantaged kids, but better than we were 2 years before. So overall, positive work there with still work to be done. Yes, Dr. Dolan-Sil.
The target change for 2016-17?
I don't know that we've had that discussion yet about the target that we established in 15-16 was 90. You want to know, do we have a new target developed for this year?
After we finish out with 15-16, we're in the process of establishing the 16-17. We've in essence used a formula for our target, which is for any target, which is double safe harbor, which means whatever our gap is from 100%, we reduce that gap by 20%. So that's been the default that we've used across all of them. I mean,
so that would mean this year with the revised data, the target would change slightly based on
it'd be
the
92.
reduction in failure rate.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
The last piece of the, if we can go to the next one, the next piece was around school culture. This is data you've already seen, but again, as we do the school culture survey this fall, we'll be able to refresh this data with this year's data and do some comparisons. I know there was some board questions about being able to break the data out because we combined elementary and middle, and if the board so chooses, we can break that data out for you if you'd like.
I would really like that.
Because I think the elementary is quite different from middle school.
Okay.
And I think that we might see, you know, in the elementary school, students have a sense of safety with their teachers, and I think it would help.
Okay.
For me, anyway.
All right. That was the one for elementary and middle, and then the next slide, and I showed these at convocation as well last week to teachers. These were the results for high school, and that there is still work to do around this where we have too many students not feeling the high expectations from teachers or feeling safe. And I really talked about, if you went back to both of those school culture survey slides, that feeling safe inside the school and my teachers care about me were roughly similar in percentage. And I do think there's a direct connection around teachers caring about the student and how students feel within that school. The last one was also school culture survey around parents, and again, we'll have that updated information when we complete the survey this year. And then the last slide was around our school staff. I want to show you one final slide just to sum up. Again, as I told you this morning, the state released its federal results. We did better in the state in reading this year as we did the year before. We did better in math this year than the state did. And if you go back almost now, what is it, 12 years, we have now had 2 consecutive years of gains in reading and math. And if you go back and look at this graph relative to other school divisions, we, for the last 14 years, we're going down in either one or the other of those core subjects. We've had 2 straight years of going up in both of them. We still have a ways to go relative to the rest of the school districts. And again, this is comparing us with all districts, regardless of poverty, regardless of school district composition. We are improving, and we need to continue to improve and improve this year and next year and the year after. But I am really pleased with the hard work of our staff and our students to do the work that they did this past year, and I think we have strategies in place that we had before and new strategies that will continue to bring improvement in Lynchburg City Schools. I'm confident we'll see improvement in the years ahead as we've outpaced the state this last 2 years in both reading and math. I'll be glad to take any questions.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. I think this presentation was really very clear, and the way you presented the data was easily interpreted, so I appreciate that. And it's extremely exciting to see 2 years of gains for all kids, so thank you very much. We're going in the right direction. One question I have has to do with the differences in gains between the black students and white students, for example.
Okay.
There was, I don't know if you want to look at it specifically or not, but I just started thinking about it. This is the increase of students passing SOL tests, and you have a difference between, say, in 2015, the gain was 2 points for black kids, 53 to 55%. And the gain for white kids was 85 to 88%.
Mm-hmm.
And it might seem like a small number, 2 versus 3%, but the white kids have they're a lower ceiling, if you will. They have less room to grow, and yet they kind of grew a little bit more than our black kids. So it begs the question for me, to what extent can teachers' cultural sensitivity, using an equity lens to view their teaching styles, to what extent could that be a factor? Are we looking at it, wondering if that's a factor?
Right.
Kind of where are we with that?
Right. Cole Lole remains our major strategy to improve instruction in the classroom for all kids. There are things in Cole Lole that really have us look at whether there's equal representation and engagement around race and gender. That's one of the things. We just gave you the aggregate about the number of students engaged, but one of the questions in Cole Lole is around race and gender and what that looks like. Around aligned learning experiences, when we check it, we ask if it's culturally relevant or culturally sensitive, matching to student needs. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things we have principals checking for. So I think we're building in some things that the teachers know that this is the expectation as we come in the classroom to help with. I think we're also working hard to make sure our pacing guides are further developed, and this year not only have we made tweaks to the pacing guides to help them better teach the information, we've also given them something called FIT, a framework for instructional time that helps them know better how to pace their activities within a set time, whether it's a one period of 50 minutes or a block 2-period class, to really help teachers pace it out a little bit more. I think that's going to be a big help. Some of our teachers, as you know, we've had a strategy around double block English and math for some time, but some of our teachers have struggled a little bit. Well, how does my class work in that double block? So we've tried to add a little bit more structure for teachers for that. The equity principles I shared at the convocation, I think, are going to be powerful to help guide our work. We had an equity workshop with our summer leadership. We're going to work on doing some training with our equity advocates that we have at each school, because we know that those conversations, not just district-wide, they have to happen in every classroom and in every school and every school improvement team. No, I agree. We've got gaps and we need to close them. The good news is everybody's improving, and it's across every subgroup in reading and math, and that's what I think we've got to keep the focus on, and hopefully we'll continue to see lift next year, just like we saw these last 2 years.
Dr. Coleman. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I would concur with the Vice Chair. The PBIS I'm excited about, the equity lens I'm obviously excited about, and I'm just trying to process the reality of this data that I'm looking at. But even when you talk about the school suspensions, the increased percentage of students with no out-of-school suspensions, and I know we're working, and I know we're getting better, but when I see 96%, and my eyes, I'm trying to get them right, but I think it says 96% of white students, am I interpreting that right?
That's right.
Have no out-of-school suspensions?
That's correct.
And African-American students make up the majority of the student population across the city. Is that correct? And
Yes.
84% last year, and back in 2013 it was way down to 79%. You know, as we start this new year, we're getting better, but I certainly hope we can all focus on, as we're getting better, to get some of these things like they should be as we get better at getting better, because that's maybe I'm just overreacting, but I just am.
I think it's fair to say, after 3 years of really having PBIS, we've lowered referrals and we've lowered suspensions. But it's going to take the equity lens, the principles of equity we just outlined to you, to start to really affect the disproportionality, because it gets at things like implicit bias, talking about what happens in a classroom interaction, what happens when that referral gets to the office, and really starting to think through all of the pieces where bias can come into play. We need to maintain strong standards for student behavior, but we also need to be sure that we're not treating one situation differently from another. So I think, frankly, that the work that we've just done over the last 2 or 3 months around reviewing our discipline policies and around the equity principles are going to help us not just lower everything down, but start to deal with this disproportional piece, which we've been aware of. When we signed that voluntary resolution agreement 3 years ago, we knew we had a discipline challenge to take on. We've seen some improvement, but we've got to start to affect the disproportionality piece.
I also think that I was very pleased to see and hear about the development of wraparound services. We know that when students are in crisis, it's often the family that's in crisis, and providing support in terms of services working together it's worked in the past, and I was very happy to see that collaboration to help families.
Yes.
And then help children.
Several of our schools this year used some of their funds and hired a behavioral coach who was there all day, every day, to support teachers working with students who might present challenging behaviors. We've never had that before. We've hired additional social workers this year. Remember 4 years ago, we had one for the entire division. we're working and partnering with organizations around additional interventions we can do with kids if they are suspended. And I do think the work with the behavioral coaches and social workers is going to continue to pay dividends to get kids redirected in a positive fashion this year.
Comment about about trying to see if the material was culturally relative, and I think we know some of the material for certain subgroups is just not culturally relative. So I'm just curious as to how we're going to move forward past, trying to see and, what are we going to do to help engage some of the students. I think that's a direct correlation to some extent as far as the material being relative. And then one of the slides for the school culture, I believe it's slide 26, the last statistic, 48% of kids feel that if I don't understand, my teachers work with me.
Right.
My teachers work with me until I get it. That kind of jumped out at me.
Absolutely.
It's one thing to not get something, but to have the perception from a student that a teacher might not be willing to help. I know we don't have anything to kind of benchmark that with. This is the first year, but I'd be curious to see how that turns out and what we plan on doing to counter
Mr.
that.
Pauly, I appreciate that. Part of my presentation at Convocation was, look at my first cat. Are you going to help me? Are you going to help me get better? And I reached out to a teacher who spent time with me, who encouraged me, who didn't say my first cat was horrible. Though now I've shown this cat, by the way, to all the students, both elementary and middle and high, in my opening day message to kids, and showed them about getting better at getting better wherever you are. Here's my cat, and here's what happened after a teacher intervened. So I want you to work with your teachers, and you work on getting better wherever you're at. But no, I challenged our teachers this year around this piece at high school is not acceptable. The majority of kids feel that they're not getting help when they don't get it, and that cultural piece has got to change if we're going to see greater gains. We're seeing some gains, but if we want to see major order of magnitude gains, this is one of the pieces that we need to see a real uptick in. You want to jump in, Dr. McLean?
That percentage is concerning. It doesn't mean that the reverse of it are kids who aren't having that. Neutral is also not counted in that. So a kid may have just said, I don't know if it's one way. So that is also kind of pulled out of that number. Okay. So it may not be they strongly disagree with it. It may just say, I'm not real sure. Regardless, it's a concern.
My last statement was in regards to some of the viewing things through the equity lens as far as the implicit bias and things of that nature. I know we have the expectations for the teachers to do these things. Are we helping them? Are we training them? I mean, are we directing that specifically? Because I know there's a lot out there. Just trying to see how we are supporting them as we have these expectations for them to look at everything through this equity lens.
Yes, I mean, we're doing a lot. We had VCIC at summer leadership with all of our school administration, all of our coaches who are going to be in there helping teachers getting that training. We're working to have additional follow-up training with VCIC around our equity advocates at each school. Last year, we asked schools to have at least 2 equity advocates. I believe it was 2. Wasn't it 2?
Yes.
For the school improvement plan process, and we're going to give them additional training too, so that as schools look at their data, right, because we've given this data to schools individually, not just this division-wide. We've given this information school by school. We want people asking the same questions you're asking here at the school-by-school level. What does this data mean? What are we going to do different? One of the other things, just to tell you, is data-wise, before schools had to go around, when I got here, they didn't even have this data, or they had to spend days and days trying to get it. We gave them this data 3 weeks ago, many of them 4 weeks ago. Many of them have already met, they're already devising strategies around what are we going to do differently this year based on this data. So we're there for them. We are training, we're doing stuff with VCIC, we're also getting our coaches additionally trained, and we're there to go, what else do you need from us? What other tools do you need to do this work? And we know a lot of it is individual teacher to individual student in each classroom. It's not the same for each person. we need them to know, and we're trying very much to say we're here to help you with the resources that you need.
Thank you. Dr. Coleman?
Yes. I'm just curious. Well, not curious because I think I know the answer. At higher, and I know that's something maybe Ms. G can bring us later. Our teachers, do we have in our vetting process or whatever we do, should teachers have an already understanding of how to deal with the diversity that they can expect in the classroom? In other words, do we already check for that, or are we just letting them go in the classroom and hope that they can get the training later?
No, I hear what you're saying. I mean, one of the things I will tell you that we've talked about at the state level is that we think not just Virginia institutions, but all institutions are doing a relatively poor job of getting new teachers ready for working in urban school systems and dealing with the multitude of things they face. We've really done a lot to revamp our mentor training. I think you remember Ms. Hancock came and talked about the mentor program that really had sort of fallen away 2 or 3 years ago. We've really tightened it up. Everyone has a mentor teacher, our new teachers do. We did the poverty simulation with them at the very beginning of the year of our new teachers, and some additional training with them. So I think we're doing a lot of it, but I think there's probably still room to do more. The good news is, I believe our teachers are willing now, after almost 3 years, when Al Coleman, 3 years ago, I asked him, what do you want to do different in curriculum instruction, which is now student learning and success? He says, Scott, we need coaches in our schools. We now have coaches for middle and high schools across content areas, right? Because in middle and high schools, people tend to think about coaching. I need help from a math teacher. We have a coach for every content area. At the elementary school, we have a coach in every elementary school this year. Before, they were shared between schools. We have a full-time coach in every elementary school. That focus is going to help teachers who have needs around instruction or how to meet kids in terms of building relationships. I think it's going to make a tremendous difference. But does it remain a challenge? Absolutely it does. I don't know, Dr. McLean, was there anything, or Dr. Bruce or Ms. Reeves, anything on that you wanted to add? Okay.
Other comments? Questions?
Just want to continue to applaud the superintendent for transparency. I am remotely aware that many school divisions, this does not occur. And, it is, as the kids say, it is what it is. And we have a mandate to keep working to get better.
I'm pleased that we're improving. I'm pleased that we're improving better than the state's improving. We have catching up to do, and we're in the middle of getting it done. I don't know, many of you have been watching the Olympics, and I watched Mo, what's Mo's last name? Mo Farah, who ran the 10,000. The first few laps, he was near the back of the pack. But when the race was finished, he was first. He steadily, each lap, moved ahead of the pack and got in position to win. And I think we're building the foundation step by step to get in the position to win in the school system for every kid. It's not where we need it to be yet, but it is improving, and I think we're going to see continued improvement this year. In fact, I told everyone at Convocation, our goal this year is to see every school fully accredited at the end of the school year, and I believe it can happen. We are just, in some cases, tenths of a point away from making that happen, and it's going to be a focus on every child by name and by need that's going to make that possible.
That just brings me to think about, maybe some kids have self-fulfilling expectations, or that they're not going to do well on the SOLs, and just say, haven't done well, I've struggled. But if there's some way that we can break that, if they can be successful or find the tools, because a lot of times it's about how to take the test,
right?
To read and not jump just because it's so easy. Sometimes it can be so simple, but you're missing a key word.
One thing to remind this board of this year, we will have all, we've heard from the state that this year that our reading and math tests at elementary and middle school will all be CAT test or computer adaptive test. They were this past year in math in 3rd grade and in math for 6th, 7th, and 8th. So if the student gets the question wrong, they get a different question instead of the same level question, and it makes the test shorter and it makes kids' stamina stay longer. At least that's the hope. Statewide, the new 3rd grade test, there were some gains. At middle school, it was a little bit more of a mixed bag. So we've got to look. I'm hopeful that being a shorter test around what the kid knows or doesn't know will be an improvement for our kids. But a lot of it, again, I believe at the end of the day, kids work for teachers. Some fall in love with content, but most form a relationship, who are successful form a relationship with the teacher. And then I still don't really love art, but I like it a lot more now that I know some techniques that I can draw a real cat versus what I drew the first time. And I think that's the bottom line. If you have the right teacher with the right technique, you can get better. And that's what we need to do this year.
Thank you. Next is item E2. This is an item we added. It's the School Board Finance Committee. We appointed last August, at our last meeting, August 2nd, appointed members for the School Board Finance Committee. We do need an alternate. In the meantime, Ms. Susan Morrison has expressed her willingness to serve as an alternate for the committee, and my recommendation is that the board select her for that appointment. If someone could be so kind as to offer a motion, I would, and Ms. Morrison would appreciate it.
So moved.
Thank you. Second. It's been moved and seconded to appoint Ms. Morrison as alternate to the Finance Committee. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you. Next is new business. Crisis plans for 2016-17. Mr. Copeland?
Yes, sir.
You have the
Good
floor.
evening, everyone. It's that time of the year when principals have finished up their crisis plans, and we will be consolidating them on a CD to come out to you. State Code of Virginia requires that you have the opportunity to review them, should you so choose. So we will send those out between now and the next board meeting. At the next board meeting, you'll just simply take action that you have completed that task according to the Code of Virginia, and then we'll certify all of that in the state system for school safety. So since we have a few new board members, the crisis management plans contain a lot of close hold, what I'd call confidential information relative to how we function at a school during a crisis. So that's why you're getting it on a CD and not getting it on an electronic type of format that could be forwarded around or picked off of an email. After you've had the chance to review them, we will ask to collect all 9 of those CDs because then we turn around and we share those CDs with the fire department and the emergency operations center and the police department and others around the city that would then use them should they need the information also. So that's it, unless you have any questions.
Questions? Ms. Carter?
I know last year we asked if they would be in a similar format. Do you think was that done? Because they were all different, but to address the crisis plan, but they were also different.
I haven't gotten around to mandating a specific format because the schools developed them in conjunction with the SROs and the police department. So I can't say that you're going to see them all in the same format, but you should see that they all contain the same items and cover all of the same aspects.
Other questions? Okay. Thank you. And that brings us to superintendent's comments.
Thank you, Dr. Nellis. Again, I want to thank all of our faculty and staff for working hard. We did improve. We still need to improve, and we're going to improve. And I believe we have the strategies in place and the people in place to make that happen. And again, I want to thank everyone for their hard work over this past year. We did a lot, and I'm very proud of the work that our folks have done. I want to let you know, one of the things we've done is take a new approach to the calendar. And sometimes when you do something different, there's feedback about it being positive or feedback for where it could be better. But I am happy that the Virginia Department of Education is rewarding us again. We applied for a grant because we did extend our school calendar. We did do some different things with the intersessions. And we received earlier this week over $900,000 to work to support our intersessions this year with our kids. In fact, during the intersessions this fall and in February, we're going to be partnering with Beacon of Hope. We're going to do mentoring, peer tutoring, SOL remediation, SAT and ACT prep. We're going to be doing team building with our middle school kids, activities beyond just remediation activities. We're going to have intervention services for the kids attending the Empowerment Academy, so they'll get an extra chance to have help beyond being at the academy itself. We're going to continue to have our senior intensive remediation program for our seniors who are behind. And you know, they got the 1 year to go and we want them to graduate on time. And we'll have additional time and resources for some of our summer school programs. $900,000 is a lot of money. I don't think the state gives it out lightly, and I am delighted that they're giving us an opportunity to use this calendar to try to continue to advance student achievement. I know many of you have questions about the intercession data, and we're going to have information around that to you sometime probably next month. The ribbon cutting for Heritage High School happened. I want to thank Mr. Copeland, as I did at the meeting, or at the ribbon cutting, for an outstanding job, him and his team, Mosley Architects, Dominion 7. They worked with Barn and Mallow. We got the job done on time and under budget. And it's the biggest project in... It's a fantastic job from Mr. Copeland, and his leadership made the difference. The largest project ever in the city in school history. And the great thing is, just listening today to the students, as I said at the ribbon cutting, some kids are already calling it not Heritage High School but Heritage University. That's great. And I think we've lifted people's own expectations. Part of it is, what do we expect of a school for our kids? And that helps them decide what's the signal we've given their kids. And I think the new school is a strong signal to kids about the work. Even just the furniture, I have you know that the furniture is in place at all of our middle and high schools this year that facilitates small groups. And at Dunbar it's purple, at Glass it's blue, at Lincoln it's green. So kudos to Mr. Copeland for color coordinating that. I would never have been that sophisticated. But again, the ribbon cutting was amazing, and we look forward to doing a building dedication more formally during the Heritage Homecoming Week, which is the first week in October, and we'll let you know more about that soon. I also want to thank Sterling Wilder and our own Dr. Coleman for the Men to School initiative, the first day of school. We had men at the majority of our Lynchburg City schools of all backgrounds, white and black, saying hello to kids, welcoming them to the school year and saying, have an outstanding year. And what the biggest concerns I got, frankly, were from the principals who didn't have men at their school, and why, Dr. Braybrand, did you not make that happen at my school? So that's the truth. It was a tremendous opportunity to connect, and I think we can use that to find other ways to do some things around mentoring with kids. There is resources out there in our community to want to help kids, and I think we can even leverage more than we have before making that happen. We can also leverage doing different things around food. You know, we've done a lot with breakfast in the classroom. We've done a lot around CEP to have our breakfast and lunch free in 10 of our elementary schools to students, regardless of their economic background. So the stigma around who eats in the cafeteria goes away. But we're also working on healthy and efficiency. So we have new grab and go at our middle and high schools, a way to grab a lunch a little quicker and get what you want. And we've introduced chef salads to the menu at elementary school. Sheffield Elementary had 41 chef salads on the first day among students. And instead of croutons, they had whole grain, cheddar gold, goldfish to sprinkle on their salad. So I just wanted to leave you with that thought as you think about your evening meal. that these young people are already trying chef salads at elementary school, which I think is wonderful. I know Ms. Reeves came up earlier to talk about Equity Task Force, but she does so many things, including her and Daisha Womack organizing our Back to School event at Miller Park. Thank you, Ms. Reeves. It was a great event. Attendance was up from this year compared to the year before. We had even more things for families and kids to do. We had online registration available. We had an opportunity for them to meet other teachers, meet the mascots. We had Beacon of Hope there, and some other folks giving out fresh food. So it was just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to connect with folks. I appreciate the collaboration with Parks and Recreation from the city to make it happen. They gave us a stage to be able to use, and the house band again played. And we want to continue that. That Parks and Rec collaboration, the collaboration with the city continued with our Summer Basketball League. 100 to 200 folks involved. I made it to the middle school finals, and I probably couldn't have lasted a minute out there without losing handily. It was wonderful. It was great music, and there is an all-star game that is going to happen September 10th at Miller Park from 8 to 10 p.m. How can it be at night? It will be lighted. We have new permanent lighting at Miller Park for kids to be able to be out there and participate. So I'm happy about that. And then I would wrap up to tell you, again, one of the strategies around graduation, regardless of the date that comes out next month, is to get to every child to graduation. Empowerment Academy opened yesterday. We budgeted for 40. We already have 32 kids, and enrollment is steadily growing in the program. And I'm already being asked, how much is too much? But it's exciting, and we're off to a good start. And again, a gorgeous facility from Mr. Copeland and his folks for these kids to learn in and really feel a part. They're working on picking out their school colors, the mascots. They retain full rights as Glass and Heritage students to go back and participate in all the co-curricular and extracurricular, but they're going to get a chance to do their academics in a different environment, much like our governor's school students get to do for part of their day. So we're excited about that and looking forward to tremendous success this year with that group.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's interesting to hear all the other nice little details that aren't part of regular business. Before I open it up to general board comments, I have a little bit of business regarding the school board retreat, which we have it's been proposed as November 3rd, as we have that, use that as our retreat date. It's pretty much it'll take most of the day. It's a Thursday, and we've only heard back from a few people. So if possible, to get consensus tonight would be very helpful, and we could get things scheduled. I think we have sometimes okay. I think we have consensus. Thank you. Okay, board comments.
Just want to say that the ribbon cutting was beautiful, especially being a alumni from there. That was great to be there and to see the transformation. And also, Dr. Bramer, regarding the resources in the community, if someone wants to assist, who should they contact?
They should first reach out to their school principal, and then the school principal can help them. Sometimes the school principal can reach out to Ethel Reeves for additional help, but really they can start local at their school and figure out all the ways to volunteer and partner. And Ethel, do I need to say anything else beyond that to have a full answer or a better answer?
Yeah, and an event like the one that was held.
I know twice. Dr. Coleman or I is going to owe you dinner. I realize that.
You said that. In the event that there is, when you talk about community, many times it's not specific to a certain school, much like the Men to School initiative. So I am open to hearing from folks and pointing them in the right direction.
Thank you. Ms. Poore?
Yeah, the ribbon cutting was great, and it was one of the cool parts about it was seeing so many teachers, so many old coaches, so many. It's a lot of people came out to see that just had a connection going way back for Heritage, and I don't know. it was funny seeing the pictures of graduation and a little bit homesick, you know, and I think is that what you guys are getting? A little bit homesick while being super excited and wandering around trying to find your classes. I mean, it is funny to see. I ran into a few people that had graduated, you know, before I did, standing in the new building, just kind of bewildered, like really trying to fully embrace the fact that that's heritage now, and being really excited about what the new kids get to have. And it'll be interesting. I'm really looking forward to the dedication, the homecoming, where I think the more we get everybody in there looking at it, and the more we get stuff on the walls, and it feels like heritage. That's really exciting for me and for people that have a connection going way back to really make it our own again. It's just beautiful, and we're so grateful for it, and it was so lovingly constructed. And the feedback that I'm getting from coaches that retired, 20 years ago, they're just so excited that these kids get to be a part of it, and we're so grateful, as a family and as a parent and as a graduate and as a school board member. We're very happy to celebrate that school this year. So thank you, and thank you for the celebration. And I think any input on when the old school would be coming down, people keep asking me. I think they're imagining like a one big wrecking ball, just sweeping it off the map, which is not going to happen. I imagine it will be like endless, just taking it apart piece by piece is what I assume is going to happen. But people keep asking me, like, what's going to happen.
I don't have an answer because I haven't seen a phase 3 schedule yet to know when we're actually going to see big track hose out there dragging down parts of the building.
Okay, but there won't be a wrecking ball.
They have a lot of preliminary work to do because there's a few things that were used to construct that building that we have to be sensitive about taking off.
It's a really delicate way of saying that. That's great. Yeah. Okay. Well, that is the big question I'm getting now: is when is the next phase coming? So, but then just thank you to everyone for being a part of that, and it's very exciting. So,
Ms. Morrison.
On Monday, briefly went to 4 schools to check in and see how things were going, and I was absolutely amazed when I walked in. The teachers were teaching, and the kids were in the room, and the buildings looked fantastic. And I know how hectic that can be, but I was so pleased to see such good things happening from day one, from the moment the kids walked into the building. So our principals deserve a lot of thanks, and so do our teachers. They've worked hard.
Thank you. Other comments? Dr. Coleman?
Yeah. I'm going to say this real quick. I feel like Tom Webb, and I do miss him, all these things. So I'm just going to scoot over them. Of what has already been mentioned, the back-to-school event. I was very proud of our board chair at the convo in his remarks and the mayor's remarks, because it really reflected the quality that we're trying to do as we define reality and offer hope. I was very impressed with this getting better, and it was so suspenseful to see what that cat was going to look like at the end. And I mean, I was deeply moved by it. The Barbers and Badges piece needs to be continuously promoted, and the fact that we help provide shirts for that, I just think that's really good. So many back-to-school events, I don't know what to say, but it was just so many of them. The ribbon cutting, the Men to School initiative. It's wonderful, the comments that Dr. Brabrand gave, but what is more important to emphasize is the fact that when this idea came to him, he did not try to shoot it down, and the entire administration ought to be applauded. Everybody, Ethel, the Director of Transportation, I don't even want to get into any partners in education. If anybody does not believe that the heart of our administration is in the right place, you can come talk to me. And I just think that needs to be underscored, because that, and I don't even want to cry while I'm up here at the meeting, but to see those kids at the various schools react the way they reacted to a touch of love, and to see the faculty excited as they were going into buildings to teach, it is just priceless. The little things we can do to make a difference. And it's happening all over the place. And I clap because of those 150 young men that Derek worked with over the summer. It's just unbelievable what's happening. And as we keep doing more and more with our equity lenses, and I want to make sure I indicate the fact that every child needs to be supported, not just one group. And I'm not talking about where one group needs to be overly emphasized. We should emphasize them. I don't care who it is. I want to see every student succeed, and just proud to be on this school board and proud to be in Lynchburg. Proud of the new high school. Proud of everything.
Thank you. A couple other items. As far as we're still soliciting topics for the school board retreat. 2 items have been received, one regarding teacher pay scale, the other about the student daily schedule. You also each have a binder with the school division operating budget included in there. I think that's just for information at this point. Though there will be a test at the next meeting. It'll be an adaptive test, so it won't take very long. Next is the next school board meeting is on Tuesday, September 6th at 5:30 in the boardroom here in the school administration building, and meeting is adjourned. Thank you.